request our founder, Mr. Rajendra Pal Singh, to kindly welcome our guest. Sir, please.
Good evening to all the dignitaries. I welcome Honorable Mr. Justice Kurian Joseph Sir, Advocate D.K. Singh Sir, Vice Chairman Bar Council of Delhi, and Advocate Jatan Singh Sir, Vice President Delhi High Court Bar Association. So without taking any much time, I would like to invite Honorable Mr. Justice Kurian Joseph Sir to inaugurate the session and enlighten the audience with your great words. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Rajendra Pal.
Thank you, sir.
A very good evening to my dear friends, in particular Mr. D.K. Singh, Vice Chairman of the Bar Council of Delhi, Jatan Singh, the Vice Pradhan of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, and my dear friends from the bar and the students. We are now discussing a very important topic as to the constitutionalism or constitutional validity of death penalty. You know, penalties are prescribed in the Indian Penal Code under Section 53. First is death. Second is imprisonment for life. And then comes imprisonment up to as rigorous and hard or simple, forfeiture of property and fine. So death is one of the punishments prescribed in the Indian Penal Code. And imprisonment for life also is one of the punishments prescribed in the Indian Penal Code. And this death is a punishment that is imposed under Section 302 CRPC. Mainly one, because we always say 302, 302. 302 is actually the punishment for murder. .302 IPC says, whoever commits murder. 302 IPC. Just 1 second, I'll take this. I'll read it out. Yes, 302 IPC. Whoever commits murder shall be punished with death or imprisonment for life and shall also be liable to fine. This is, I just read out from the IPC, and there are several other places where death penalty is prescribed also. For example, after the Nirbhaya Justice Verma Commission report, our IPC was amended. Section 376, lot of punishments were newly introduced, and in those punishments, death is also one of the punishments. 376 from A to D, yes, A to D, and DA also. DB and E, all these, are the newly introduced provisions after the gang rape case of Nirbhaya. All the four life convicts, four convicts were sentenced to capital punishment, and their capital punishment was executed also recently. And therefore, this has become a hot topic for discussion. That is one reason. Second reason, death penalty, its constitutional validity was challenged in the Supreme Court in the famous Bachchan Singh case. And on a majority of 4:1, Justice Bhagwati dissenting, the death penalty was upheld by the Supreme Court. And it is now 40 years. This is the Ruby Jubilee of Bachchan Singh. After 40 years of what has happened in the death penalty cases also. In between, we had a report of the Law Commission of India, 262. 262nd report of the Law Commission of India went in detail regarding the validity of the death penalty and how freakishly that is being imposed by the courts in India, and therefore made a very specific and categoric recommendation. If people who are interested in the death penalty constitutional validity should take an opportunity to read those report that's available on the website also, Law Commission of India. You can read that report, and made a specific recommendation that except in the case of what you call terrorism and waging war against the state, death penalty should be abolished. That's a strong recommendation. It should be abolished. Why the commission also reached that conclusion is something which we can see from the various reports from the various states and various studies conducted, empirical and otherwise also. And finally, the Law Commission, they reached this conclusion also. Now, just let me come to the philosophy behind this. See, under Article 21, Article 21 says it is the duty of the state to protect life. Article 21 of the Constitution of India says protection of life and personal liberty. No person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. So it is the duty of the state to protect the life of a person. As you all know, Article 14 and 21 are available to non-citizens also. So all those who are persons in India are entitled to get the protection of these two articles, 14 on equality and 21 on protection of life. So I just refer to this part because it is the state is the protector of life and not the one who deprives the life of the person. So that is the fundamental basis on which we have to understand. So it is the duty of the state to protect and render quality life to the citizens of this or persons in India. So why does the state itself take away the life of a person? Though it is provided in the Constitution that it is in accordance with the procedure established by law. And the procedure established by law, as we all know, is the Criminal Procedure Code. And the Criminal Procedure Code, what is the procedure? Criminal Procedure Code says under section 354. Under section 354, the court has to state special reasons in case a death penalty is imposed. Yes, when the conviction is for an offense punishable with death, or in the alternative with the imprisonment for life, or imprisonment for a term of years, the judgment shall state reasons for the sentence awarded, and in the case of sentence of death, the special reasons for such sentence. So this has been understood by the Constitution bench itself while rendering the death sentencing judgment, that the principle is life's imprisonment is the rule and death is the exception. And if that is the position, where does the court impose this punishment? In Bachchan Singh, the citation of Bachchan Singh is 1980, volume 2, SCC 684. Imprisonment for life is the rule and death sentence is the exception. That has been found by the held by the Supreme Court in the situations where a death penalty is one of the prescribed punishments also. And there was, in the IPC, there was a mandatory punishment of death. In IPC, there's only provision for a mandatory death and nothing but death was section 303. That is in a situation where a person already convicted for death comes out of jail on parole, etc., and commits another murder. And then, in which case, if it is proved that he has committed murder, a second murder, then he can be punished only by death. Life imprisonment. A person convicted for life imprisonment comes out of jail and commits murder, then the only punishment is death and death only. That was its constitutional validity was challenged, and in 1983, Supreme Court held in Mittu versus State of Punjab that there is nothing like so arbitrary a provision which is not constitutional at all as per the scheme of the Constitution of India, where because the judgment itself means there must be a discretion left to the court. If there is no discretion left to the court, that it is not constitutional, because the constitutional scheme of judicial administration or dispensation of justice or administration of justice is that there is always a discretion left to the court. So once a punishment says there's nothing but that, then there's no discretion left, because the court will have to see what are the situations that led to the commission of the crime, and the famous what they call the threshold that has been set by the Bachchan Singh case is so high, where it is said it can be imposed only on the rarest of rarest cases. What is this RR? Rarest of rare cases. Rarest of rare cases, the Supreme Court held, if you really apply that principle, it did not stop there. Rarest of rare cases where the alternative is unquestionably foreclosed. Therefore, if there is an alternative punishment available, and if there is no option at all left to impose an alternative punishment, then alone this death penalty can be imposed. Look at the purposes of punishment. What are the purposes of punishment? Purpose of punishment is: 1, deterrence; 2, prevention; 3, retribution; 4th, restoration; and 5th is restitution. In all these punishments, if the purpose can be served, did I not mention reformation also? I think I left it. Deterrence, prevention, reformation, retribution, restitution. Yes. If there is a possibility in any given case of the person being looked in a differently, where he can be awarded any other punishment for achieving the purposes of the punishment, then the court cannot and shall not impose the death penalty. And you see, there are 2 theories. One is utilitarian theory. The other is retributive theory. In utilitarian theory, the whole purpose of punishment to discourage the wrong being committed in future in society. That is the utilitarian theory. Whereas retributive is, because of the particular crime, the person who committed the offense needs to be punished. These are the 2 approaches theoretically on punishments. And purpose of punishment are these also. How frequently this has been applied, we have seen from 1980 to 2020. One classic example I can tell you, in 2018, Supreme Court acquitted the 6 persons who have been otherwise sentenced to death penalty. They were tried by a sessions court, found guilty and imposed death penalty. That was confirmed by the High Court. And 16 years they were in jail, waiting to be hanged. And their appeal was pending in the Supreme Court. And finally, the Supreme Court acquitted them, finding that they are innocent. Not that benefit of doubt, innocent. And they were tribal people, nomadic tribe. Tribal people, they were sentenced to death in a rape and murder case. And Supreme Court found that they were innocent, and the probe was also ordered by the Supreme Court. So that is the type of investigation, and that is type of appreciation, and that is type of the discretion that is exercised by the court. That is why in Channulal, this humble self happens with the author of that Channulal judgment. And in fact, that's my last judgment also. Last judgment which is reported, which I authored before remitting my office. That is in 2018, Channulal versus State of Chhattisgarh, where see, we actually referring to the entire case law from 1980 to 2018. We found it's a bench of three. We exercising a judicial discretion. After any punishment, there is a judicial discretion left. And in judicial discretion, where is there a finding that there is no alternative at all, which is, and that option is unquestionably foreclosed. And who should lead this evidence? This evidence that he cannot be otherwise awarded any other punishment is the onus of the prosecutor. It's the state to establish before the court that there is no other alternative but death. In your experience, your own people very experienced, me also 40 plus years, 41 years now in the field of law. I have not seen that the state taking that much interest and the state discharging its duty of establishing before a court of law that in the case of a person who has been convicted for murder, there is no other alternative except death and death only. And look at, there's a project that in the Delhi University, they have conducted a study, detailed study on the death penalty issues. They have found, people in the who have been sentenced to this capital punishment, almost 70% belong to the lowest strata of the society. Either they are economically weak, socially backward, educationally very poor, and their psychiatric, and in fact in Chanulal I made another point also, that psychiatric evaluation, because the mental framework one does not know. Let me, now that the Nirbhaya case is over now, during that Nirbhaya execution also, I've been speaking to the people like this only. See, has any one of you conducted a study as to the background of these people, the poor people who have been executed, which background they come from? What is their psychiatric or the psychological and psychiatric situation? So they were actually products of the street. Don't take me other way. They have been living in street. They know only the life of the street. And in the life of street, many things that they did, and they are not previous offenders also. I understand to the extent that I know. Yeah, previous offenders. In the life of the street, there's the rule, or rather the culture is solely different. Their educational background is very poor. They're coming from a very low strata of the society. Economic background is very poor. Their age is also combative. So Justice Krishna and thereafter many judges, including me, have in many cases, while in Supreme Court, have held that age should also be a mitigating factor. So in the rarest of rare theory, RR theory, the main important factor is that all other options are unquestionably foreclosed. In that, in the sense, death alone shall be the punishment. That is one. And secondly, aggravating and mitigating circumstances, both with respect to crime and with respect to criminal. Here again, the discretion exercised by the courts, there is no uniformity at all. At least we cannot find any standard application. So it varied from judge to judge. So that is the wide range of discretion in the matter of application of this death penalty issue. So in the case of aggravating, mitigating factors, and we all are carried away by the aggravating circumstances with regard to the crime, the brutality of the crime. The brutality of the crime is that goes into the minds of the public, the media, the prosecutor, the state, and of course, it has an impact on the system of administration of justice also. There is no gainsaying in saying that there is no impact. There is an impact. Let me ask a blunt question. But for the public agitation, would these 4 people who have been executed in Nirbhaya, would have had the same fate, either by the court or by the government also. Because I have to take the government's power of pardon also. There is a power. That's why you call mercy petition. In scrutinizing the mercy petition also, has these did the executive actually analyze all these various factors with regard to the background of the people, the age of the people, the circumstances which are aggravating to the crime, of course, and mitigating as far as the criminal. You know, in Bachchan Singh and in all other cases, the death penalty can be unquestionably imposed only when the aggravating is 100% in crime and 0 in criminal. You follow me? 0 in criminal. Can you say, can any citizen of this country say that the mitigating circumstances of the criminal, take the case of those 4 people, unfortunate 4 people, the mitigating circumstances were 0. If there was 1 mitigating circumstance, 2, 3, 5%, 10%, things would be different. Those mitigating aspects, at least I understand in the case of 1, he was not a perpetrator of the crime because he was involved because he was driving only. That is for sure. At least in 1 case it was. But in another case, in any case, the social, economic, and the psychiatric background of the people, educational background of the people, and age of the people. These were 4 main mitigating factors which were available to the criminal. Aggravating the crime, I don't say they did not, that the crime that they committed is not heinous. It was heinous, no doubt about it. I have no sympathy for the fact that, you know, the crime was so heinous, no doubt about it. The brutality, the heinous, etc. is all there, no doubt about it. But that is one factor. But is there any mitigating factor as far as the criminal is concerned? That aspect was not considered properly. Now, I'll just tell you in Bachchan Singh, the extreme, the summary of the extreme penalty of death need not be inflicted except in gravest cases of extreme culpability. Before opting for the death penalty, the circumstances of the offender also require to be taken into consideration along with the circumstances of the crime. In the case of this Nirbhaya convicts, did the circumstances of the offenders were taken into consideration properly, in the proper perspective? Circumstances of the crime, yes, but not the criminal. Third, life imprisonment is the rule and death sentence is an exception. In other words, death sentence must be imposed only when life imprisonment appears to be an altogether inadequate punishment having regard to all relevant circumstances of the crime, and only provided the option to impose the sentence of imprisonment for life cannot be conscientiously exercised having regard to the nature and circumstances of the crime and all the relevant circumstances. Fourth, a balance sheet of aggravating and mitigating circumstances has to be drawn up, and in doing so, the mitigating circumstances have to be accorded full weightage, and a just balance has to be struck between the aggravating and mitigating circumstances before the option is exercised. And there are certain guidelines also being prescribed as to how to apply it. And those guidelines: 1, is there something uncommon about the crime which renders sentence of imprisonment for life inadequate and calls for a death sentence? Yes. The case which we referred to, yes. 2, are the circumstances of the crime such that there is no alternative but to impose death sentence even after according maximum weightage to mitigating circumstances in favor of the offender? That part, unfortunately, has not been taken into consideration, according to me, and that is not normally taken into consideration. Well, in 2019, just keep in mind, 17 death sentences were committed to life by the Supreme Court of India. Not 1 or 2, 17 cases. What does it mean? 17 cases means, 17 cases, the High Court confirmed the death sentence awarded by the trial court. And coming to the Supreme Court, they were committed to life. That means, the discretion was not properly exercised with regard to the rarest of rare cases, number one. Alternative option, unquestionably proposed, number two. Number three, aggravating circumstances in respect of the crime, aggravating circumstances with regard to the criminal, mitigating circumstances with regard to the criminal, and for the aggravating and mitigating circumstances appreciation the discretion was not properly exercised, at least by two courts, one the trial court and the High Court. Suppose those people had not come up in appeal in the Supreme Court, the High Court would, the sentence punished, the judgment would have been final, they would have been executed. Good luck, they came to the Supreme Court, and in 17 cases, not 17 persons, 17 cases, it was committed to life sentence because the Supreme Court found that the alternative option was still available. And in 7 cases, 6 cases, yes, six in the case of 6 persons, they were acquitted, having found innocent. And in 2019, I believe 7 were acquitted, having been granted the benefit of a doubt. That was in the case where, we found in the case of persons awarded death sentence by the High Court, the SLP was dismissed dismissed. We found sitting in the bench of 3, we found that was certainly not proper, because a death row convict, because that punishment is irreversible. That is the speciality. See, in exercise of a discretion by the court or by the judge or a court, yes, a state court. See, discretion by the, in case the discretion is not proper, there is no question of reversing that discretion once the sentence is executed. In all our cases, it is reversible. This is irreversible. In such a situation, the discretion, if not properly exercised, will certainly lead to a failure of justice. And that is what the Supreme Court wanted to prevent in fixing the high threshold in the case of death penalty and prescribing such stricter standards imposing. In essence, the rarest of their dictum that the case belongs to the rarest of rare category. The alternative option of life imprisonment will not just suffice in the facts of the case. Well, if only we have these sort of approaches by the courts, probably it will be very difficult. I'm telling you, probably it will be very difficult for a court to impose death penalty. Because in Chandrilal, we have held to award the sentence, the crime test has to be fully satisfied, number one, that is 100%. And criminal test, 0. That is, no mitigating circumstances favoring the accused. If there is, I'm just reading from the judgment, if there is any circumstance favoring the accused, like lack of intention to commit crime, sorry, possibility of reformation, young age of the accused, not a menace to the society, no previous track record, etc. The criminal test may favor the accused to avoid the capital punishment. Even if both the tests are satisfied, that is the aggravating circumstances, the fuller extent, and no mitigating circumstances favoring the accused, still we have to apply finally the test of RRK. The rarest of rare depends upon the perception of the society. That is the society-centric and not judge-centric. That is, whether the society will approve the awarding of death sentence to certain types of crimes or not. While applying the test, the court has to look into the variety of factors like society's abhorrence, extreme indignation, and antipathy to certain types of crimes like sexual assault and murder of intellectually challenged minor girls suffering from physical disability, old and infirm women with those disabilities, etc. These are only illustrative and not exhaustive. I do not want to take more of your time because Jadin also is on the queue to talk, and we have a little bit of what we call question and answer session also. But still, before concluding, I will only want you to take into consideration the 40 years of the travel after Bachchan Singh, which we have summarized in Chandula, where we said, on the constitutional ethos on value and dignity of life, when it is said in Bachchan Singh, extreme depravity, duty of the state to adduce evidence that there is no probability that the accused can be reformed, liberal and expansive construction, alternative option is unquestionably foreclosed, humane concern, real and abiding concern for dignity of human life, the gravest case of extreme culpability, only when life imprisonment appears to be altogether inadequate punishment, mitigating circumstances should be grave, should be given full weightage. That's all Sandesh Maria. That the probability that the accused can be reformed and rehabilitated. The rarest of rare cases is a negative percept. Rarest of rare cases is an exceptionally narrow opening. Extraordinary burden on the court to impose death. Maximum weightage to mitigating circumstances. And yet, no alternative except death. Highest standards of judicial rigor and thoroughness. No possibility of reformation. Young age, not a menace to society. No previous track record. These are the findings of the 40 years of travel on death penalty by the Supreme Court in various cases, which we have summarized in Chandula. So therefore, my dear friends, when we think about the constitutional validity that has been upheld by the apex court in Bachchan Singh, and 40 years down the travel, it has been diluted so meticulously and so adeptly, so much so, I think, and according to me, it will be very difficult for a court to impose death penalty on a person who is found who is convicted of murder. I'll stop here after listening to Jatin also, and thereafter in the course of discussion we can have a better interaction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your wise words. May I now request Mr. DK, sir, to kindly say a few words.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Mr. Singh, now you are audible. Yeah.
Namaskar, good evening to Mr. Honorable Justice Kurien Joseph Saab, Jatan Singh, Honorable Vice President of Delhi High Court, Organizer Rajinder Pal Singh, and all are the participants. I am really indebted to the organizer for having been invited here and giving me this opportunity to share my views. Today our topic is capital punishment. Capital punishment. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Today our topic is a capital punishment, death penalty. Execution is the infliction of the death upon a person by judicial process as a punishment of for an offense crime that can result in a death penalty are known as a capital crime or capital offenses. The practice of capital punishment being one of the harsh punishment known to be the man who has taken the gradually humanized change over the years, being a model of the punishment prominently follow in the most part of the world has now been abolished in many countries. The punishment is as old as the government itself. Method of execution are earlier crucifixion, stoning, drawing, impaling, and beheading, but in such present time, the execution is formed by the lethal gas, injection, electrocution, hanging also taken. In the 5 years after the constitution was made, death penalty was the normal punishment for the murder till 1955. In the year of 1973, the CRPC was amended. In that amendment, it was made a distinction for the session judge either to give the imprisonment for life or death sentence. The debate whether the death penalty should be abolished or not is one of the most long-lasting, impassioned debate going on in the civil society and political sphere in India. Some subscribe to the eye for an eye and life for life philosophy, while the other believe the sanction death is wrong. The former Justice, Chief Justice of India, Mr. K.G. Balakrishnan, has favored the continuance of this provision, but he seems to have forgotten the other side. Most of the supporters of the death penalty believe that it is justified on one or more the following grounds: as the means of the revenge, justice as a deterrent to others, to prevent any dangers of re-offending, and it cheaper than the imprisonment, where the criminal will stay whole life in in prison to taxpayer money. The moreover, we talk about the sanctity of life, so is not sanctity of victim life more than the convict life. In our zeal to protect the right of criminals, we should not minimize the right of victims. The innocent life should not be valued over the offender. The most of the commonplace argument of all is that the executing a murderer will not bring back the victims. The justice is not about bringing back the dead. It is about the enforcing the consequences once on action. It is about the preventing the future misfortune and protecting the life of the vulnerable and about harming the weak. As far as the Indian Constitution is concerned, there are some provision has been incorporated in the Indian Constitution. First of all, I will deal here section Article 21 for the Constitution title. The title is the protection of life and personal liberties. It defines no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. The article of the Constitution enshrines the right to life guaranteed to every citizen in India. The Constitution validity of the capital punishment has been called into the question several times in the Indian judiciary. However, there are certain section has been in CRPC where, as the Honorable Justice has also explained, 120B, that be section 302 IPC, and raising an attempted bar against the government of India, 121, abatement of mutiny, 132, dacoity with murder, section 396, and others. And recently, some section of the POCSO also explained regarding the death penalties. The Indian Constitution has the provision of clemency of the capital punishment by the President. Once the session court has awarded death sentence to convict in a case, it must be confirmed by the High Court. Even after the convict may prefer an appeal to the Supreme Court if he feels there the accused has option to submit a mercy petition to the President of India, the Governor of the states. The detailed instruction regarding the procedure to be observed by the states for dealing with the petition for the mercy from or on behalf of the convict under sentence of death and with appeals to the Supreme Court and application for this special leave petition to the court. To such convicts are led by the Ministry of Home Affairs. In this respect, we may refer, I also refer here section Article 72 of the Constitution of India, which says the power of the President to grant pardon, etc., or to suspend or remit or the permit sentence in the certain cases. Similarly, the pardoning power of the Governor of a state are mentioned in Article 161. These provisions ensure the accused is sentenced to death only after there is no room. The Honorable Justice Kurian has already explained meticulously and very beautifully. He explained today there is no room for error left. The culprit gets multiple avenues to appeal, and now the imprisonment has become the true, and while the death sentence is the exception. The The first case, as far as the death penalty is concerned, the first case has been explained in the year of 1980 AIR Supreme Court, Volume 2 Supreme Court, Bachchan Singh versus State. Again brought to the question the validity of the capital punishment. This was case that gave birth to the rarest of the rare case. The doctrine and still remains one of the most important cases in this subject. The 5 judges bench said, a real and abiding concern for the dignity of the human life postulates the resistance to taking a life through law instrumentality. The ought not to be done except in rare of arrest cases where the alternative opinion is unquestionably foreclosed. Subsequently, there another case in the year of 1983, Machi Singh versus the state. In order to further elucidate the rarest of the rare rule, the situation where the application of the death penalty and sentence could be justified by the justice, Mr. Tucker gave the following manner. The illustration is the murder of the commission of murder, manner of the commission of murder, where the murder is committed in an extremely brutal, developed, revolting, and dastardly manner so as to arouse instance and extremely indignation of the community. The second one is the motive for commission of murder, when the murder is committed for a motive which is total depravity and meanness. For instance, where a hired assign commits a murder for the sake of the money or reward. Third one is the anti-social or socially abhorrent nature of the crime, when the murder of the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and minor community is committed not for the personal reason but the circumstances which arose the social threats. Magnitude of the crime is the fourth. When the crime is enormous in proportion, for instance, where the multiple murder, say, of almost all the members of the family and large number of the persons of the caste, community, or locality are committed. Last one, the personality of the victim of murder. When the victims of murder is an innocent child could not have or have not provided even an excuse, much less a provocation for a murder, the helpless woman or a person rendered helpless by old age or infirmity. When the victim is a person vis-a-vis whom the murder is a position of respect, domination, or trust. When the victim is a public figure generally loved and respected by the community or the services rendered by him, or the murder is committed for the political or similar reason other than the person. But some human rights organization oppose the death penalty on one or more of the following grounds. Killing someone is always inhuman and it's like a murdering legally. There is no evidence of deterrent effect. Indeed, and available evidence seems to show there is no effect. Life without parole is just an effective way to prevent someone re-offending as a punishing them. Saving money can be a justification for taking someone's life. Mistakes are bound to happen. In India, death sentence was carried out in the year of 2014. Was handed over for hanged for rape or murder of a 14-year-old girl in Kolkata. Here, the question is to ask is, has the execution of Dhananjay Chatterjee stopped the rape in the society? Has the number of the rape cases declined? No. These crimes are increasing day by day. If we look at hanging cases, there is hardly any positive effect of death penalty. In public discourse, there is a belief that we hang the murder of or rapist, then we will deter all the future crime. This is a rather a constitutionalist argument. Satisfying the end of the without appropriate means. A A count where the free legal aid is a best, a mockery to the system. We can take example of Amjad case, in which Pakistani terrorists had attacked in Bombay, Ajmal, and so many people were killed. In spite of this fact, million of rupees has been spent to give legal aid. It is also the best mockery to the system. There is no denying the fact that most of the one waiting of the death sentence are weaker background. In my view, if we take our national crime statistics, death penalty has not proved to be a deterrent. The reality is that the death penalty is a barbaric exercise in which the no civilized society should practice or participate. Capital punishment is a flawed aspect, aspect of the judicial system in our country. So many instances prove the criminal justice system as riddled with the errors, corrupt officials, and flawed practice. Yet the system is still permitted to execute people. The system needs overhaul. The death sentence was to terrorists avoid debate logic as a Fiadin suicide attacker like Kasab and Ajmal Guru could only embrace the death at their means of the murder. These people are already prepared to die for belief. Besides this execution will not guarantee end of further terror attacks against the country, but would rather be used as an extremist mastermind to instigate the violence and more hatred against India. If we all are serious about the dealing with the terrorists, we could do worse if we follow the Israel example. Death penalty has no place in the modern society. Nobody is surprised that it is still used in India, China, and the United States. There is a punishment worse than death. Make the convict endure endless discussion about the capital punishment. The rigorous life in prison could be far worse punishment than a swift death, and in case of the terrorists, they took job fully prepared to die for their cause. Death penalty served only to assess a misplaced public sense of retribution and as a tool for venting. I strongly feel we have to reform our laws, especially for the death penalty. Our laws should be such that a punishment should be rigorous, that it should be remind not only for the offender or terrorist and culprit, but it should be living example for the people around him about his human acts. Each day and night, he should regret acts of the crime. At the same time, it should be act as a deterrent. And I'm living because whichever view I have shared, it's my personal views, and it may be some honorable justice might be differ, have the opinions, and honorable other members, and Jatan Singh, my elder brother, will also have different. So please go ahead. Thank you for everybody for giving me the opportunity.
Honorable,
Singh,
thank
good
you,
evening.
thank you. Good evening.
Again,
Honorable Justice Kurian Joseph, the former judge of Honorable Supreme Court of India, and to me, one of the most respected, fearless, bold, and a human judge. And it is a pleasure, sir, that joining with you in this webinar. For me, it is an opportunity, and also it's my real gratitude and pleasure that the organizers have given me this chance to speak. I am not a constitutional expert, uh, because this subject itself speaks that validity of death penalty, constitutional validity of capital punishment. So I will try to justify that the law which has been developed and the way it has gone in the law books and also the system. Mr. D.K. Singh, the Vice Chairman of the Bar Council of Delhi, Mr. Rajinder Singh and Smriti Sian, the two moderators on behalf of Law Joint, the webinar which is organized by Law Joint in association with the Bar Council of Delhi. And I must congratulate Mr. D.K. Singh as a Vice Chairman of Bar Council of Delhi that such kind of webinars in today's pandemic situation helps not only because Mr. Rajinder Singh's forum Law Joint is basically a forum to provide teachings to the students. So, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, so the today's topic, constitutional validity of capital punishment. Honorable Mr. Justice Kurian Joseph started, and I also will start that earlier all punishments were based on two theories. One is that the penalty for wrongdoing, what should be done, and we have penalty right from a vehicle challan, that is also a wrongdoing, to the capital offense for which the capital punishment is provided. So this is in the criminal jurisprudence or in the criminal administrative criminal delivery system. These are the two, and there are two main reasons for inflicting these punishments. One is that there is a belief that both it is right and just that a person who has done something wrong must be punished and must suffer for that. Oh, battery must suffer for that. Must suffer for that. My actually iPad was showing the low battery, so I just want to put a plug on that. And the second was, the other is that and the other belief is that the inflicting punishment on wrongdoers discourages the others from doing the wrong things. So it was a deterrent effect, which is the second one. So I in the and Honorable Justice Kurian Joseph has introduced few more after the Bachan Singh's judgment, which has now there is a, because in Arab countries you find there is a system eye for an eye. If the system there is eye for an eye punishment, but now our all over the world, the system has now shifted to the retributive and reformist approach for punishing a wrongdoer. The capital punishment debate is most generally relevant debates, keeping in mind the situation that has been brought about by today. Capital punishment is an integral part of Indian criminal justice system. The increasing strength of the human rights movement in India, the existence of capital punishment as questioned as immoral. However, this is an odd argument, as keeping one person alive at the cost of lives of numerous members of potential victims in the society is unbelievable and in fact is morally wrong. Now, Your Lordship, Justice Kurian Joseph has said that penalty is described in section 53 of the IPC. So what is the capital punishment? What generally we understand what is capital punishment. So capital punishment, which is also called a death penalty, execution of an offender sentenced to death after conviction by a court of law. Capital punishment should be distinguished from the extrajudicial killings or extrajudicial executions carried out without due process of law, because capital punishment is provided after a due trial by the courts, and the conviction is handed over to the accused, finding that he has committed some brutal and gruesome offense. The term death penalty is sometimes used interchangeably with capital punishment, though imposition of penalty is not always followed by execution. The term capital punishment stands for most severe form of punishment. It is the punishment which is to be awarded for the most heinous, grievous, and detestable crimes against humanity. While the definition and extent of such crimes vary from country to country, state to state, age to age, the implication of capital punishment has always been the death sentence. By common usage in jurisprudence, criminology, and penology, capital punishment means a sentence of death. Now, what are the capital crimes in which capital punishment is handed over? So, some of the capital crimes which are mentioned in the Indian Penal Code is, one is that Section 21 IPC, treason and waging war against the government of India or the country. Section 132, abatement of mutiny actually committed. Section 194, perjury resulting in conviction and death of an innocent person. Section 195A, threatening or inducing any person to give false evidence resulting in the conviction and death of an innocent person. Section 302, which everyone knows, murder. 305, abatement of suicide by a minor, insane person or intoxicated person. 307, Part 2, attempted murder by a serving life convict. 364A, kidnapping for ransom. 376A, G, E, D, all rape and injury which causes death. These are all have been introduced by amendment after Nirbhaya's case. And my brother D.K. Singh rightly said that the POCSO Act also has some provisions where the death penalty is provided. Then Section 396, dacoity and murder. And then you have capital offenses in other laws also, Air Force Act, then Arms Act, Andhra Pradesh Control of Organized Crime. Then there are in states, you have capital offenses which are there in different states and different forums. Then when we notice, now what is the historical background? You know that historically the capital punishment is an ancient sanction. It is there in the statute books for a long. But independent India saw the first capital punishment and the death penalty in 1949 when Nathuram Godse and his associate, they were hanged for committing murder of Mahatma Gandhi. There is practically no country in the world where death penalty has never existed. It has existed in all the countries, including India. History of human civilization reveals that during no period of time, capital punishment has been discarded as a mode of punishment. Capital punishment for murder, treason, arson, and rape was widely employed in the ancient Greece under the laws of Draco. Though Plato argued that it should be used only for the incorrigible, the Romans also used it for a wide range of offenses, though the citizens were exempted for a short time during the Republic. This finds support in observation of Sir Henry Marin, who stated that Roman Republic did not abolish death sentence, though its non-use was primarily directed by the practice of punishment or exile and prudence of questions. Now, we are concerned here with capital punishment in India. So, capital punishment in India, if we go for a careful scrutiny of database in British India, Legislative Assembly debates, and they reveals that no issue was raised about capital punishment in Assembly until 1931. When one of the members from Bihar, Shri Gaya Prasad Singh, sought to introduce a bill to abolish the punishment of death for the offences under Indian Penal Code. However, the motion was negatived. The then Prime Minister replied to the motion. Now, if in the independent India retained several laws after getting independence from British colonial rule, they have retained certain laws which are Indian Penal Code and Criminal Procedure Code. We retain the same law which is available in which is a common law in UK also as on date. For offences, now Justice Kurien Joseph spoke about section 354 subclause 3, but here in the CRPC you find 367 subclause 5, in which the courts were required to regions where the court decided not to impose the death penalty. So 367(5), during that time, the courts were required to record regions for not imposing the death penalty. And the language of the section is, if the accused is convicted of an offense punishable with death, and the court sentence him to punishment other than the death, the court shall in its judgment state the reasons why sentence of death was not given or passed. But in 1995, the Parliament repealed section 367, significantly altering the position of death sentence. Death penalty was no longer the norm, and courts did not record the reasons for why they were not imposing the death penalty in cases where it was prescribed. So there comes section 354, in which and which is based upon the Bachan Singh's case, and when the conviction, this was reenacted in 1973, though Bachan Singh's case was in 1980. When the conviction is for an offense punishable with death, in the alternative with imprisonment for life or imprisonment for a term of years, the judgment shall state the reasons for sentence awarded, and in the case of sentence of death, the special reasons for such sentence. So this was a significant modification from the situation of 1955, and to reversal of the position in 1908 Act. Norm and reasons have to be recorded if any punishment was imposed. Now judges needed to provide special reasons for why they imposed the death sentence, and these arguments were introduced post conviction hearing on sentence, including the death sentence, in section 235 subclause 2. I would not read that. Now, what is the international scenario? I'm not going into it, only saying that India is one of the 78 countries so far, as of now, who are retaining the death penalty in their statute book. So it was the death penalty was available in all countries sometime or the other, but now, as on date, it is only 78 countries, including India, who has death penalty on their statute book and has been used in the recent past. While only a minority countries retain the use of death penalty, this list includes some of the most populous nations in the world like India, China, Indonesia, and the United States. making a majority of population in the world. Now, human rights and human rights on capital punishment and treaties, which are not the subject here because we are only debating the constitutional validity of death penalty in India. So now, what is the current status of death penalty in India? Now, Supreme Court of India, if you know that Article 21 of the Indian Constitution ensures the fundamental right to life and liberty for all persons, and rightly put up by Justice Kurian Joseph that it is the duty of the state to protect the life of its own citizens. So it adds, no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. This has been legally construed to mean if there is a procedure which is fair and valid and just, and then state by framing a law can deprive a person of his life. While the central government has consistently maintained it would keep the death penalty in the statute book to act as a deterrent and those for a threat to society. The Supreme Court, first up now recently in Jagmohan Singh's case in 2018, the death penalty, and it is a judgment by unanimous judgment by 5 judges bench. And in Jagmohan Singh case, the validity of the capital punishment has been upheld and it has held to be constitutional. And before that, if we know that in Rajendra Prasad's case versus Rajendra Prasad's case, which is Rajendra Prasad versus State of UP, Justice Krishna Iyer has held that Justice Krishna Iyer held that held it otherwise in 1979 and said that the death penalty is violative of Article 14 and Article 21. But a year later in 1980, in Bachan Singh's case, which is a judgment by 4/1, Justice Bhagwati giving a dissenting judgment on in Bachan Singh's case, but the 4 judges held that the validity of death penalty is constitutional and does not violate Article 14 and 21 or 19, and that rightly put by Justice Kurian Joseph and Mr. D.K. Singh, that in Bachan Singh's case, this was the theory of rarest to rare case was evolved, and it was said that this will however only be in the rarest of rare cases, and the court should render special reasons while sending a person to gallows. So the judges were made accountable that when they are passing a judgment on death penalty, then they have to give special reasons for doing so. Now, criteria of rarest of rare cases, it was the principle as to what constitute the rarest of rare case has been laid down in the top court by the top court in Bachan Singh's judgment in 1980. Supreme Court formulated certain broad illustrative guidelines and said that it should be given only when the option of awarding the sentence of life imprisonment is unquestionably foreclosed. When there is no door open for the accused, then only in those situations the death penalty should be awarded. It was left completely upon the court's discretion to reach this conclusion. However, the apex court laid down the principle of weighing aggravating and mitigating circumstances, which was also discussed by Justice Kurian Joseph. A balance sheet of aggravating and mitigating circumstances in a particular case has to be drawn to ascertain whether justice will not be done if any punishment less than death sentence is awarded. 2 prime questions by the top court held may be asked and answered. First, there is something uncommon about the crime which renders the sentence of imprisonment or life inadequate and calls for a death sentence. Second, are there circumstances of crime such that there is no alternative but to impose the death sentence, even after according maximum weightage to the mitigating circumstances and speak in favor of the offenders. Now, my brother D.K. Singh also talked of Machi Singh's judgment, which is Machi Singh versus State of Punjab. In this judgment, Supreme Court laid down the broad outlines of circumstances when death penalty sentence should be imposed. So Supreme Court has out be considered while awarding the death sentence. Now of late, there is a shift from going to death sentence. There is an alternate to capital punishment, which is now being evolved by the Honorable Supreme Court and the High Courts and other subordinate courts. In the last few years, Supreme Court has entrenched the punishment of a full life. Earlier, the life used to be 14 years or less, but now the Supreme Court has said in alternate to death sentence. Now, what should be the mechanism? So they have evolved the punishment for full life or life sentence of determinative number of years as a response. You have heard the judgments. I have also seen that one of the judge in Delhi High Court awarded 31 years of life imprisonment. So this has been one of the alternate method of awarding sentence in alternate to the death sentence. The Supreme Court, through a 3-judge bench in Swami Saradanand's case, laid down the foundation of emerging penal options in following terms. The matter may be looked at from a slightly different angle. I will not read because this talks of as to how the alternate life's imprisonment can be awarded in place of death sentence. So the observations in this Swami Saradanand case has been followed by the courts in multitude of cases such as Huru Ghosh versus State of West Bengal, State of Uttar Pradesh versus Sanjay Kumar, Sebastian versus State of Kerala, Gurvel Singh versus State of Punjab, where full life or sentence of determinate number of years has been awarded as opposed to death penalty. So that Bachan Singh's case, the reformative theory or the retributive theory, which has been talked of, is being followed in the later judgments, where alternately the life imprisonment for a number of years or for throughout the life has been awarded. Now, then you come to there are powers of clemency powers, mercy petition powers, which my younger brother D.K. Singh also talked about. These are powers with the President of India and the governors of different states. So they, under Article 72, is with the President of India, and Article 161 is with the governor. They have a power to grant pardons, reprieves, respites, or remissions of punishment, or suspend, remit, or commute the sentence of any person convicted of the offense. So these powers are being used, and we have all seen that in the case of Nirbhaya, it's a duty of the consuls to save his client. So the consul have used his all powers in his possession to go to courts, to go to President of India, but ultimately these 4 people were hanged in March 2020. Now, if I may tell you that uh, uh, till 2015 or till 2000, I will come to 2020 also, there are 437 mercy petitions which were pending in 2015. But you will be surprised that apart from Ramnath Kovind, the Honorable President of India, rest of the presidents of India, there were so many mercy petitions were pending. But before Honorable President of India, Mr. Kovind, there is no mercy petition pending as on date, except I think Devinder Bhulla's mercy petition is still pending. He has not been hanged. And so what these powers are being used. Now, I will just give some broad outlines in which in Shatrughan Chauhan's case, the Supreme Court has given some broad outlines how to decide the mercy petitions, and it was sent to Home Ministry. So these are personality of the accused or circumstances of the case. This is judicial review of the exercise of mercy powers. Cases in which the appellate court expressed doubt as to the reliability of evidence, but has nevertheless decided on conviction. Cases where it is alleged that the fresh evidence is obtainable mainly with a view to see whether fresh inquiry is justified, whether the High Court on appeal reversed acquittal or an appeal enhanced the sentence. Is there any difference of opinion in bench of High Court judges necessitating the reference to larger bench? Consideration of evidence in fixation of responsibility in the gang murder cases, long delays in investigation and trial, etc. However, when the actual exercise of Ministry of Home is analyzed, it is seen that many times these guidelines have not been adhered to. Writ courts in numerous cases have examined the manner in which executive has considered mercy petitions. In fact, the Supreme Court, as a part of batch matters in Shatrughan Chauhan's, in 11 writ petitions, rejected writ petition challenging the rejection of mercy petition by executive. Supreme Court last year held that judicial clemency could be granted on the ground of inordinate delay even after mercy petition is rejected. Now, Justice Kurian Joseph talked of the Law Commission report on report on death penalty. The Law Commission of India in its 262 report has recommended the following. The Commission has said the Commission recommends that the measures suggested that police reforms, witness protection scheme and witness compensation scheme should be taken up expeditiously by the government. The march of our own jurisprudence from removing the requirement, and then there are 4 or 5 guidelines which have been given in recommendations which are given in this report. So, but still, as said by Honorable Justice Kurian Joseph, that these recommendations are not fully recommended. So my going for the last but not the least, I would say, because we are the students of law, so we as a lawyer, we hold no opinion this way or that way, because our opinion is based upon the judge-made laws and the law books, which talks of the validity of capital punishment in India, and it has been number of times upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court that it is not violative of either Article 14, 19 or 21. So I rest my arguments here, and I thank the organizers of this webinar for providing me this opportunity of speaking on such a important subject. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is one question from Deepa Rajendran. Sir, there is one question from Deepa Rajendran referring to lock-up deaths cases. Recently, the Kuntlam father and son death case. Can capital punishment be imposed on police officials who on face of the case have committed a brutal crime? Is there an exception here?
Question to me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, this is our knowledge, no? Ours is a court of law. So any punishment can be imposed on a person only in accordance with the procedure established by law. So a criminal case, you know the first principle, if somebody comes to a police station, says, I committed the murder of my so-and-so, here is the head. Even then, can that same evidence, somebody can be punished for a murder? No, because it has to be established before a court of law that this is the crime committed and he has to be found guilty. And then, of course, the other principles of aggravating, mitigating, rarest of rare case, brutality of the crime, all these will have to be made. So if you ask me whether it can be imposed, it all depends on what are the materials before the court and how the court will have to take a decision, not on the basis of what the court read from the papers, not on the basis of what the public said about it, not on the basis of the public perception about it, but on the basis of the materials before the court. The court can only do that because the court is, ears are shut, eyes are shut. Only what is seen before the court are the materials, the evidence that is before the court. So that is something to be tried and seen. Not now. We can't judge that now.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a question from Sanjay Jha. What are your views on police brutality?
Again to me, see,
Yes, sir.
yes,
sir.
Yeah. Police brutality is a misnomer because police is not meant to be brutal. I 100% agree with you. Nobody can be brutal, and let alone police. Police actually, because their duty is to maintain law and order. Law and order maintenance does not mean that that be brutal, that be cruel, that be inhuman. The moment we hear about police, we all think that there are people who, who hit you, who physically abuse you. The language, their body language, their verbal language, everything is different. That's the concept about police. But you go to some other, if you see police from some other countries also, then the policing is wholly different. They are your friends because they help you to maintain law and order. And if you have come in conflict with the law, of course the law will take care of it, not the police will take care of it. Police cannot be brutal. It is for the law to take care of it. Therefore, there cannot be a situation where the police is brutal. You cannot, elicit any information by the police cannot, showing brutality on you. It's not the purpose of the policing. They are only investigating. Investigation does not mean that they have to be brutal on you and make you confess that you have done something. No. They have to elicit the information in appropriate manner known to law. That is why, the moment a person is produced before the magistrate has to mandatorily ask, what was the situation when you were in police custody? I got any complaint? If you want to say in chamber, you can say that also without the presence of the police also. You can always ask that you want to tell the magistrate what you call incognito, not incognito, in camera.
And medical has been made compulsory.
Medical, Jatin, thank you.
Yes.
Jatin, thank you. Medical also is compulsory. Yes.
Yes.
Well, there is a question. Some countries, including India, still practices hanging as a mode of execution. This method has been criticized being an inhuman and violation of basic human rights. What are your views, sir?
See, that needs an amendment in the criminal procedure code, because CRPC prescribes, once the death is a punishment that is awarded, that person has to be hanged, hanged by neck till he is dead. So therefore, that requires an amendment. Yes, that is the 354(5). When a person is sentenced to death, the sentence shall direct that he be hanged by the neck till he is dead.
Yes.
So that is the mode of execution prescribed by the statute. There's no discretion on that.
Sir, there is a question to Justice Sir. Why there is no uniformity in justice delivery system? Honorable Session Courts, High Courts, and Supreme Courts.
Yeah, as I told you, see the essence of a dispensation of justice is actually the discretion left on the court. Discretion, because no two situations are the same. Therefore, the judge will have to see the circumstances, the evidence, both. That's why, while taking evidence, the judge will have to even to see the body language of the witness also. So therefore, there is no two identical situation. That's why the discretion as such is given. Therefore, while exercising the discretion, the judge will have to be absolutely unbiased, absolutely objective, absolutely adhering to the truth, absolutely what they call honest, absolute integrity. All these are there. That's why we call it without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and unbiased also. So, but in exercising this discretion, sometimes the approaches vary. That's why I said, in imposing death penalty, it has become judge-centric. In fact, I referred to it, DK Singh also referred to it, Jadan also referred to it. Both the DK and Jadan, you did an excellent job in your presenting your views. Very exhaustive, Jadan, particularly. You have done a thorough study on it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, I thought I should have cut short my time little early, so both of you could have done a little more. But doesn't matter. I'm saying, I'm so happy that both of you have done a very exhaustive. So it has become judge-centric rather than what they call the objectivity. The objectivity is lacking. It has become from person to person. Approach has become person to person. That is the reason why, we need to have some uniform standard. If it goes to court A, among lawyers, you have a popular saying what they call convicting judge, acquitting judge,
Yes.
So that is the element of subjectivity. It all depends on how the judge would use this discretion. According to me, the judge should use this discretion, keeping in mind the dignity of the person, be a hardcore criminal, be a heinous to the most heinous crime he has committed. With all that, he should have the dignity of the person. And of course, as DK rightly said, he should also keep in mind the rights of the victim also. Yes.
Yes.
Sir, there is a question for Anindya Narayan Singh. Is what happened recently with gangster Vikas Dubey can be justified if it is a planned encounter? And if so, who is supposed to be responsible for it? And what's the legitimacy of doing encounters of criminals?
This question is not related to our topic.
Political issue.
Let us not prejudge any issue. We are all lawyers, no? The fact that we are lawyers means we are informed people. We know law. So a person is presumed to be innocent till he is convicted. How is he convicted? He is found guilty. How is he found guilty? He is found guilty not on the basis of a press report, not on the basis of the police report, but on the basis of evidence that is adduced before court, and on the basis of evidence, a finding of guilt is entered. Till that stage, he is presumed to be innocent. That's why I said the dignity.
Sir, there is a last question. That if the capital punishment penalty is removed completely, don't you think that the heinous and most violent crimes will spread in the country like uncontrollable deadly disease?
See, do you think that by awarding capital punishment things can be stopped? I'll tell you a classic example. 4 people were hanged in Nirbhaya, and that was close to pandemic. And within couple of weeks, a student in Jharkhand, while waiting on for a bus, she was sexually assaulted by a gang of people.
Yes.
Fortunately, she was saved. Life was saved. So did that hanging have any impact on them? So it is the society that has to be changed. In the sense, India is my country, all Indians are my brothers and sisters. We are not able to see, unless we are able to get rid of this our casteism, communalism, corruption. This society will not change. So, and the equality of people, irrespective of gender, the dignity of women, all these are society's attitude. The society has to change. A lady is seen as an object of consumption. That's the whole problem. You look at the newspapers, a couple of pages of many newspapers are earmarked for what you call semi-nude pictures of women. Look at the advertisements. 90% of the advertisements are actually capitalizing on the projecting the ugly pictures of our own sisters. So this is the society's attitude. A woman is always seen as an object of consumption. That attitude must change. She is entitled, a woman is entitled to equal dignity as men, number one. A woman is entitled to equal protection by the society, number two. A woman is entitled to equal treatment by the society, irrespective of gender. So that's the society's attitude. That must change. So therefore, it's actually what is required is a change of the mindset of the public, not the punishment of capital punishment. Suppose I always say if a capital punishment is imposed, that has become history. Whereas if that person is kept in the prison, always you can show. See, you can read that lesson. See, if you commit this sort of a crime, this will be the reward. You will be in jail only. Your freedom is curtailed. It's worse than death. Curtailment of freedom is worse than death. So I think that is a lesson always read. That is why in Jarnail Singh, I said, forget about me. That is why in 376 A to E, when this amendment was introduced, that power of commutation also was taken away. And the remainder of the life, the person has to be in jail in such a heinous crimes of sexual assault and murder. Yes.
Thank you, sir. With this, we have come to end. Thank you, Honorable Justice, Mr. Justice Kurien Joseph, sir, for giving us time from your busy schedule. We are very honored, sir. I also thank to Advocate D.K. Singh, sir, for being the guest of honor and always supporting Law Joint. And but not the last but not the least, I also thank to Advocate Jatan Singh, sir, Vice President, Delhi High Court Bar Association, for guiding the participants and for enlightening the session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yadnan, you have a lot of data with you. I really was amazed the way you collected the data. Please share it with us. It will be very helpful. I'll give you my email ID or address or a number also. This Rajendra has all my number, everything, mail also.
Yeah, sure. I have, sir.
Just share your what you call lecture.
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure, sir. We'll send it to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, DK Singh.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jatan, and thank you, Narendra, and all the participants.
Thank you,
God
sir.
bless you all.
Thank you, sir.
Stay safe and blessed and healthy.
Thank you, sir.
Same to you, sir.